It's not only about the bragging rights, it's about representation, prowess, flexibility, and adequate information for a solution-focused initiative. We crowned a champion in the third edition of the Speak and Solve initiative, SASI. It was a tough challenge, but an ultimate winner emerged. Taking the trophy, which has been in the custody of the Harare Institute of Technology, the Midland State University held the cup for the first time, marking themselves as the team to beat in the fourth edition of the SASIDebate. They fought a good fight. Will they follow in the footsteps of their predecessors and be the winners this year? Do they have what it takes to take it home yet again?
Desk, and of course we have these conversations with the tertiary institutions, and we want to find out how they feel about our debates. I'm joined by Dean Chakawia from Midland State University. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You know, it's interesting that we're openly talking about sexual reproductive health. How do you feel about these debates, and how do they impact your students?
Thank you. These debates, particularly the Say What SASI debate, has really been influential in how our students are learning about sexual reproductive health issues. We are firmly behind the support that we receive, and we are for the initiatives that have been raised. They've been very influential. Students have been participating, and it's been a long wait to these debates, and we're really looking forward to the impact that it has on our students.
Fantastic. Now, you know, we are talking about the COVID-19 pandemic, and of course in closed doors there are a lot of things that happen. How relevant are these discussions, in your opinion, during these difficult times?
Particularly during these COVID-19 times, where virtual platforms have become a normal way of life, we are really seeing the benefits of how sexual reproductive health issues are being discussed on a virtual platform. We don't have the advantage of having the physical as much, but we are really seeing an improvement in the quality of debates that we're having, particularly because of the COVID-19 pandemic that has forced us to stay indoors and forced us to use virtual platforms.
Lovely. Dean Chakawia is with the Midland State University. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
My name is Charlie Ngube, LIE at the end. I'm the Deputy Dean of Students here under the Division of Student Affairs, but currently I'm the Acting Dean of Students. What I expect is a wonderful fair play from all the teams involved. I know that these debates are very good in transforming students' character. They are transformative in the sense that our students will develop teamwork. They will develop that never give up attitude, that it's never over until it's over. So this is my expectation. Fair play, that spirit of resilience for all the teams, and I know they will do it. Here I'm talking about the whole team, not just the NUST students. Yes, specific message, especially for Mary and Adine, our NUST students. I would like to say to them, fight on, never give up. We know you will make it. It's just to borrow what the former American President Barack Obama speech. He used to say, yes, you can do it. We know you will do it. So we are saying, Mary and Adine, yes, you will do it. Please carry high the NUST flag. Do us proud like you have done before. So we know they will do it. NUST is a brand. If you say NUST, just that name alone says a lot. So we are wishing them very good luck. We are wishing them well to fly high this NUST flag, this NUST brand. We are wishing them to make us proud, never let us down. We want the NUST brand to remain NUST brand. They should think in other terms, not only thinking in other terms, also think outside the box, if need be. in fighting and winning. We want them to win, and we know they will win.
They were 10. We're now down to 6. Pindura University, Great Zimbabwe, Midlands University, and GSU have been eliminated, but the debate continues. Still in contention are NUST, Lupane University, Africa University, Midland State University, UZ, and CUT, who are proceeding to the quarterfinals. But as we all know it, there can be only one champion. Who will it be? Stay with us and find out.
It is the second day of the Speak and Solve Initiative SASIDebate Competitions 2021. Welcome back and thank you so much for joining us. Now, of course, you will know by now that we have lost 4 universities. Sad. But they had to go. And the competition must continue. Now, of course, remember that this initiative is brought to you courtesy of Say What in partnership with the Swedish Embassy, UNFPA, the National AIDS Council, and Asahi, and of course, Econet. All right, so we have our first pair for the day ready to battle it out, and of course, see who makes it to the semifinals and of course the final stage. MSU, the defending champions. How are you feeling?
We're good.
They're not sure. They're worried.
We're well.
How are you feeling?
Well, defending champions for the second time.
But it's getting closer now. Like you're there. You're
Almost
there. You got this?
Yeah.
All right, so let's start off the competition debate for the day. Our motion, ladies and gentlemen, is the House would amend the Zimbabwean constitution to include the civil right of access to the internet. Are we clear on the motion? I'll read it again. This House would amend the Zimbabwean constitution to include the civil right of access to the internet. Are we clear on it? All right, and we will be having MSU as our affirmative side and NUST as our opposers. Now, I'm just going to take you through our countdown again. We are going to start off with an opening speech from the affirmative team, and that is going to be 3 minutes, all right? After which, opposers, you will have 1 minute to cross-examine the affirmative side. Once that is done, opposers, it is your turn to give us your opening speech, and the affirmative team will have 1 minute to cross-examine you. Are we clear on that part so far? Great. Once we're done with that section, then we have the rebuttal stage. We will start off with the opposers, then we will move on to the affirmative team, and that is going to be 3 minutes on each clock. Finally, we will then go to the closing remarks, starting with the opposers, then ending with the affirmative. That is now 2 minutes on the clock. Are we clear on our time? Again, I will remind you, the minute I say stop, whether you are mid-sentence, beginning of sentence, 2 words from end of sentence, you stop talking. Are we clear? All right, great. So, affirmative side, Midland State University, are you ready to go? All right, your clock starts now.
We have living in the whole world in the 4th industrial revolution, the world of big data. Everyone wants to access anything on the internet, right? We tell you that it is fundamental to have people to access those particular things, right? Okay, let me just niche down the case to the issue of Zimbabwe. Why do we think that it is principally justified that the government of Zimbabwe gives people this particular right? Okay, you all understand that the Constitution says we all have the right to access information. We think that in principle, the government ought to give people to access the internet, because how we're accessing information in status quo, we're using the internet. It makes it for one fundamental reason why the government ought to make sure that this is a civil right. We think that at a point in time when the government makes it a civil right, it means that one, the government does not limit people to accessing that particular thing. We think that also the government provides according to its resources. Opposition, don't get us wrong, according to the resources available, the government provides for that particular thing, right? And also we think that the issues of diving into the model in terms of how government is going to provide for this for this right is not the chat today. there. We think that when you enshrine it into the Constitution, it becomes a fundamental human right because that's how people access information, right? Move on. Two things that you're particularly going to get from our speech is why we think that why people need access to the internet, right? And secondly, what are the formalities around the issue of having this thing as a right? Number one, we think that people need the internet because we communicate to the internet. I think right now, the COVID times have really showed how we need internet in its most great form, right? That's why people are having debates in Zoom, or even like a grade 2 child is learning online, or even university students are learning online. It shows you how particularly a society has evolved into a scenario whereby we cannot live without the internet. At a point in time when the government realized that its citizens cannot live with a particular thing, it ought to fundamentally make it a right so that it cannot limit its particular citizens from getting right. Argument number two, why we think that what this thing ought to be a right and what are the formalities that surround a right. It means that government cannot arbitrarily decide and wake up and say, you know what, people today, because we have these reasons, cannot get on Facebook or people cannot get on Zoom. We get this particularly problematic and weaponized by African states that have been particularly being so anti-progressiveness in terms of democracy and cutting down the access to internet because they don't want the people to have information against how the government is corrupt. They don't want the people to have access to unionize and particularly maybe unionize and stand up against that government. We think that at a point in time when we say that this is a civil right, it takes away that particular modality that governments can wake up and say, you know what, we're going to cut the internet. With these particular things we've told you into today's debate, why we think that there's a loophole that exists in terms of systems of governance and in terms of accessing information. With this, we've never been proud to propose.
With 7 seconds to seed. Are you okay? You look like you're about to run away from the stage for a minute. Just okay. All right. Opposers, are you ready for your cross-examination? Yep. Your clock starts in a your clock starts now.
So, sir, quick question. With the way you're saying it, it's like the government has totally restricted access to the internet. So, what is the current standing on the internet access in Zimbabwe?
Speaker, even if people are accessing their internet standing in Zimbabwe, it means that what we're telling you in today's debate, we want to take away that loophole that exists, that government can arbitrarily take away internet from citizens because it wants to limit citizens to accessing information. We tell you that it is in principle in the Constitution and citizens ought to have the civil liberty.
So, next question. What's your take on the spread of illegitimate news and cyberbullying and all those things?
Those are the disadvantages of the internet. We cannot stop them. They are not the fundamental reasoning of saying that we should not give people the right to access internet.
So instead of limiting, you want the government to give unlimited access to the internet?
Yes, government ought to give. If you are giving people a right, you are not limiting how they access it. That's why we're debating this.
All right. I like the little teamwork that's going on here. One is asking, the other is jotting down, and I like it. Well done. Are you ready with your opening remarks? Yeah. All right, your clock starts now.
Panel, the flow of information in a government is something that is so important, no matter how liberal the state is. That's why even in America, you have got things like the Patriotism Bill, where a person is not allowed to directly post anything that goes against the state, leaking security information, or even going against the direct endeavors of the government, right? So we tell you it doesn't matter whichever country you are in, but the flow of information is something that is very important, right? What you don't get explicitly from Denzel are the restrictions that currently exist within government when it comes to the access to internet whole talk, right? What he wants is people to be given internet and internet to its full access, right? So we're going to tell you firstly why we think government is a legitimate actor when it comes to controlling the flow of information on the internet and how people access it. Firstly, the government is the authoritative and parenting body of any state, right? A government, particularly in Zimbabwe, that is chosen by representation, and a constitution that is drafted roughly by the people, right? So it means what is in the Constitution of Zimbabwe are things that are morally acceptable within societies of Zimbabwe and things that everyone relates to, right? Why are these restrictions important, and what are some of the restrictions that exist when it comes to the civil right or when it comes to accessing the internet in Zimbabwe, right? Firstly, you are not allowed to post anything that directly goes against government efforts, right? When people have got internet access to its fullest, for example, what happens on WhatsApp, right? Panel, I tell you that where I worked, right, when you would go there and like educate people on the vaccine, because of what they have seen on the internet, many people will withdraw and hold back of going to take like the COVID-19 vaccine. Even on sexual reproductive health issues, when you go out there into the varsities and try to teach children, they would rather take what their peers are telling them, right? This shows how important the flow of information is when it comes to progressiveness and when it comes to development, right? So we tell you how government is justified to control and restrict the access of the internet. We tell you of other evils that exist and why government then bears the brunt and the burden. We tell you of things like cyberbullying. We tell you of things like direct endeavor to detract the work that has already been done and work that has already been put in, right? We tell you how when people can send whatsoever they think, right, it derails progress because you get that backlash from society, most of it being unnecessary and most of the information being illegitimate, right? So we tell you when you have got unlimited access to the internet, like what Denzel says, you have got real repercussions on actual systems that don't only affect the government, but also the people themselves, right? Let's also move on to the next point, where we tell you really of ICT in essence. In ICT development, ICT infrastructure. ICT is meant to drive development in any country, for any society, right? So when you have got two forces counteracting against each other, then you have got a problem. That's why government should restrict and channel the flow of information
and
for,
I'll tell you
for
that
development.
you're out of time. All right, are you ready with your cross-examination? Why are you pointing at him? It's not your turn? Okay, anyway, your time starts now. She's asking.
Clarity on how already on the internet, people, if you're a cyberbully or if you do something wrong, you still get prosecuted around it. How is it a fundamental reason not to make the right to internet a civil liberty?
Thank you, because that's the actual positive thing of having restrictions on internet access. That's what we want. We want restrictions to exist, and we want government to like direct how internet is used and everything like that.
Okay, you also talk about the issue of the Constitution, right? Do realize that the Constitution states that individuals have the right to access information, and we've told you that information status quo is accessed through the internet.
Yes, I don't deny that. And I also told you the importance of how information flows and its ultimate trickle down to the community.
Okay, confirm on the fact that how information, good or bad, ought to be received by all citizens.
Information, good or bad, has to be received by citizens, but when it comes, of course...
All right, thank you very much. Opposers, are you ready with your rebuttal? Your clock starts now.
Panel, if there's one thing that the affirmative side came to talk about is how we need to provide internet access to each and everyone. But at the end of the day, they failed to prove to us how, at the end of the day, that is going to solve what we need to solve in this debate, which is things to do with cyberbullying. It's things to do with the abuse of the internet, right? We come and tell you that in this debate, we believe that the main focus not only is the internet, is the access to internet, because in the status quo, people have access to internet, right? But we come and tell you that with the access to internet, right? Which one is better, to have restrictions or unlimited access to the internet? And my first speaker comes and tells you that we believe that access to the internet should be for everyone. And she also comes to tell you how limiting the access to internet then solves the thing that we're trying to prove in this debate, which are cyberbullying and all those things that come with it. We come and tell you that during this time, there's been a lot of the spreading of illegitimate news, how there are these COVID vaccines that you need to take, concoctions that you need to drink, and all those things. And we come and tell you that these are things that, as the government, right, instead of giving people unlimited access, let's restrict some of the things that are posted on the internet. This is where the focus of our resources should be, instead of us letting people do whatever they want to do, right? Because we believe that at the end of the day, if people access the wrong things on the internet, then giving them that right at the end of the day doesn't solve anything, because it's actually harming a thing at the end of the day, right? This is what to come and tell you that the flow of information in a society is important. Because if people can now expose government secrets at their own will, we believe that is detrimental to the economy. We believe that is detrimental to a nation. And that is one thing that these guys fail to prove. They come and cry all about how we just need to give internet access. But they fail to prove to us how, at the end of the day, that is beneficial to both the government and the people at large. We come and tell you how it is important to limit what's accessed on the internet. Why? Because already as it is, people can have Zoom meetings that he was crying about. People can access Facebook and all those things. But we come and tell you that on issues that are important, which are cyberbullying, the abuse of internet, let the government use those resources to actually locate such things. This is where we should put our monies to make sure that everyone is safe on the internet, right? No children are abused on the internet. This is where the focus for our resources should be, other than just giving people, because in the status quo, right, people say whatever they want and they walk scot-free, right? Now imagine if they have unlimited access to the internet and they can do whatever they want. Just imagine. So we're saying that in this debate, it is better for us to limit what people can access through the internet and monitor them. Because at the end of the day, we are moving into an ICT era, of which we believe that the best way to tackle this situation is to focus our resources to make the internet safe. We're not saying no internet for everyone, like they characterize in this debate. We're saying we're limiting the internet access.
Okay, so prove it while we imagine. I don't know what we're proving or what we're imagining, but let's go. Are you ready with your rebuttal?
Ready.
Okay, your clock starts now.
Panel, we are not debating cyberbullying in today's debate, because if that was the issue, we'd also be debating detriments of road traffic accidents, we'd be debating a lot of things. So the urgency in this debate that is missed by our opposition is the need to constitutionalize the right. The right is there, but the mere fact that it's not constitutionalized, it leaves a lot of loopholes that my partner talks about, where the government then weaponizes this right. We think we needed to make clarity on the goals of today's debate. It's not about the implications or the side effects of cyberbullying, because everything, even medication, has side effects. So that is not the chat today. What is the chat in today's debate, right? We think they talk about how the government will be exposed, and we do not want that. It will harm the economy. Who wants 15 billion to disappear and they are not aware of that? No one. We think the government needs to be responsible for whatever they are hiding, for the skeletons that they are hiding, that the internet will reveal. We think when someone tweets or sends screenshots of what the government is up to, they can then be reprimanded, and then the people can know what the government is up to. That is a democratic society that we are vouching for in today's debate. We do not want a government that gets to get away with murder because no one can account for that. Because please note, internet these days is a very civilized way or platform where people are expressing their freedom of right. We see people on Twitter having so many opinions about how they want to be government. That is democracy at its best, and we think that social media, the internet, is the most civilized way that these people are expressing their rights, as opposed to rioting in the streets, right? We think we don't need any moral grounds to constitutionalize this right? We think morals don't even have a say in the constitutionalization of a right that already exists, right? We think this debate is not even about the evils of the internet. I already talked about that. It's more on the urgency of why, especially in this COVID era, we need this right to internet. He characterizes why the urgency is there, because we are moving towards a progressive society. We are in the fourth revolution of technology, right? So it's inevitable to then be comprised in the world of the internet, right? Lastly, we want to ensure a society where, in as much as the African leaders, right, try and limit we've seen, precedents in Zimbabwe where the internet was shut down because apparently there were riots or people that were anti-government, right? We think the power that someone can decide to shut down the internet is why we have a problem with the government not constitutionalizing it. The minute they do that, we take away the power from the government, because remember, they are a governing board, but they are not a just and an accountable body that can go away with anything they want, right? So they have to be accountable, they have to be responsible, and this can only work under our side of the house, where we are saying, let us constitutionalize. The repercussions that come can be accounted for by the police.
Time. Okay. Are you ready with your closing? Your clock starts now.
Samantha tells us about the constitutionalization of this right, and this being the debate. The problem that we get from Affirm is that you don't get the difference between status quo and then what happens after constitutionalization. Because the same things that Samantha is talking about are things that are occurring in status quo. People are tweeting as much as they want. People are doing whatsoever. Governments are being called out and everything is happening, right? So after constitutionalization, what happens? The best case scenario that we get from Affirm is when Denzel says people get unlimited access to the internet, right? That's the only characterization and trickle down that you get of the policy that comes from Affirm, right? Which is what we have a problem with. Because if on their side, their ideal house is a place where people can constitutionally post anything that they want to post and not have any problem with it, and government cannot control them, right? That's the problem that we have. Because in every policy, Samantha, we have to come up with preventative measures to try and prevent those road accidents from happening, right? We don't want police to be dealing with repercussions, but we want people to be protected and to be within a safe space, right? So we will vie for status quo, where firstly, government has got active restrictions when it comes to the kind of information that people can assimilate and that people can have, right? So this means that you can't have access to just anything, and how it's like a crime for you to access particular sites at a particular age and all of that stuff, right? We want to have maximum government intervention if, like, constitutionalizing the right to the access of internet looks like a free world of people gallivanting around the internet and posting whatsoever they want. Why do we think that this is particularly important? And why do we think that this is urgent on our side of the house? We tell you how historical trends have shown us that if people have got unlimited access to typing and writing whatsoever they want, the nation runs into panics. We'll tell you how in 2019 to 2020, we had endless panic buying stunts pulled by people because people were somehow going to be locked down tomorrow, and all that was fake. We tell you how initially the uptake of the COVID-19 vaccine was slow, all because people were posting whatever they want. Those are the repercussions. We don't want to deal them, so let's prevent them.
All right, affirmative. Can we have your closing remarks? Your clock starts now.
That even when people send smoking signals for people to gather and they tell them what the government is doing, people will still panic. Even when people, like in neighborhoods, gather and talk about what the government is still doing wrong, people will still panic. So why necessarily are we stopping the internet? Because it's still doing the same thing. It's making people away. So what is so different from smoking signals and the internet? We don't get that from the opposition side, right? We still feel that it's not our burden, but Denzel gives you a model of how this is going to work. He tells you how the government can provide for this right by even partnering with local communication companies such as Econet to provide or subsidize even and make the data cheaper. So we still think that it's doable, it's feasible. Secondly, we think we cannot account for the repercussions or the effects that come with this right to information, to internet, right? Because you open a Pandora's box. Now the government has to, they have to be responsible for the bad speeches that people say, because remember, we have the right to speech, right? So now the government has a lot of burdens to then prove. For every right they give, they need to show how they're going to give measures so that people do not make bad speeches in public. We think that is just ridiculous in today's debate. What is important in today's debate is that people are granted the right. It's constitutionalized, right? And what do we do when we do that, right? We think the justice system exists to then loop this gap that would then be created by the people that decide to abuse, right? We are actually for the justice system arresting these people that then go against the regulations that would have been set by the government. We do not have a problem with that, right? And we think preventative measures are there and are created by the justice system, not the government, and not constitutionalizing a right. We think people deserve this right because the internet is inevitable. We're so proud to propose.
All right, thank you very much, debaters. Now, of course, remember that the theme for this year is debating with hope for a better and healthier future for all. Now, I know throughout this competition, we've had some more spirited debaters than others. Some had, more facts, some had, but I know by now you have your favorite. So let us know as well Who are your personal favorite debaters? Not the teams, not the universities, the actual debaters themselves. Who has been your favorite? Remember the hashtags that we're using for this competition, hashtag Sassy for Hope and hashtag SASIDebate 2021.
Hello, I'm Dion, and all I want to say is child type to think.
Say what is your friend when you need help. Call 577.